Hello, everybody, and welcome to Weekly Manga Recap here on January the 11th of 2017, our first regular episode of the new year. Chris, you pumped up?
I am super pumped, Nick.
I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that because I'm kind of tired.
I'm going to be doing like every so often you'll turn the screen. I'm going to be like karate move. And that's to show you just how pumped up I am.
Good to hear. I'm sorry. I'm a little bit. I had a late start today. I'm sure that this is exactly what I need to get me going. But it's just a little worn out from that. Yeah, exactly. That'll get my blood flowing, and by the end of this, I'll be bouncing off the walls. But for right now, I'm just a little bit.
You'll be dancing off the ceiling, Nick, like the classic Lionel Richie song. Dancing.
Why do people ever reference that song? Unless someone is actually dancing on the, unless someone actually dances on the ceiling, I don't know why anyone would ever think of that song.
Because of that fucking pimp ass beat in the background. Don't deny it, Nick. I would try to mimic it, but the human mouth isn't created to mimic a sound so catchy and awesome. And I'm always a fighting type for the people in the chat.
I don't know if I've ever heard Lionel Richie be described as pimp ass before.
I'm sure there was one really white black guy who did it one time.
One super white who's like, "Oh, Lionel Richie's a super pimp, man.
He's a super fly dope fiend, yo." It was my mom.
He can really kick it, G.
He's pretty fly for a white guy, except he's actually one of those Negroes. It's like, oh, Grandma, please.
He's just so non-threatening that I mistook him for a white boy for a second there.
For the love of God, Grandma, get off the radio. I really love those.
I paid 25 cents for this collect call, and you're...
He's a stank-ass me, motherfucker. I'm like, for the love of God, Grandma, get off the phone.
Jesus Christ. Oh, it's good to be back to talking about manga that we had come out this week.
Hells yeah.
And I guess actually before we get into the recap portion, weekly manga recap, I guess we should make an announcement about that.
We just reached a new goal on Patreon. Yay! Karate move! We reached a new milestone, which was to
Karate Kermit.
To add new series into the recap. We just reached that goal, so to give you guys an explanation on how that's going to work really quick, basically right now we're waiting to get suggestions from you guys, because we're going to pick which series we add to the recap, heavily based off of what the audience kind of recommends to us. So there are a ton of options out there, and we're kind of looking for people to send us what they'd like to see. Send it over to our Twitch. You can post it on Patreon, hit our email up with it. Either one of those works. But to give you a heads up, any series is up for it, assuming one, it's an official release of it. So something that's officially released from a company, Crunchyroll, Viz, Yen Press, any of those, Comixology, I think releases some. Just as long as it's an official translation of it. And it needs to be not about to end, because that would be really weird to add a series that's going to end in like 2 months to it. And then it needs to be at least somewhat regular. So monthly series are an option.
But Hunter x Hunter is not.
Hunter x Hunter is not. I'd even say like One Punch Man's not, just because that can have a really...
It's got an odd release schedule.
It's got a very erratic one, and oftentimes it also only has like 1 or 2 chapters. But anything else, it doesn't have to be Jump. It doesn't have to be something within the magazine. It could be something long running. Just note that for the series we pick up and add to the recap, we're going to first, essentially for anything that's a long running series or anything like that, we're going to do it like a recommendation first. So we'll read through it, catch up, do an episode talking about where it is right now, and then add it into the recap going forward. And we'll do a couple series like that. So they won't all come in at once. They'll kind of be staggered throughout the year, but we're going to be adding them in. JoJo Leon is not an option because there is no official release for JoJo Leon to my knowledge. But anything like on the Viz free site that they release, so like Haikyuu, Asta Lost in Space, Dragon Ball Super, those are all options. Anything that's on Crunchyroll, so Relife, Ajin, Attack on Titan, all those are options. Basically, we want to get the suggestions from you guys first on what ones you'd like to see the most, and then we'll kind of compile it, maybe do a poll or something like that to kind of pick what ones we do. The number of which being added kind of depends on the series we pick up. So like if we pick up 3 like monthlies, maybe we'll pick up another one, or it'll just depend on what kind of series we pick up and how frequently they come out. So yeah, send those over. Again, Twitter, the email, weeklymangarecap@yahoo.com, or shoot a message on Patreon, and any one of those will work out just fine.
We've gotten a lot of suggestions already so far, but keep on sending them in. Because if we, see, for example, multiple people make the same suggestion, that's going to up its chances. I've even seen people. I saw one person make an interesting suggestion, which was do monthly series and like cover a different one of them each week, so that you always have one of them to talk about, which is an interesting idea. But we'll see how that goes.
Yes. So any of those, shoot them over. We'll love to hear any of your responses, and we're going to start adding those in. So thank you, everybody, for helping us reach this new goal. And I hope everybody's looking forward to Weekly Manga Recap expanding and becoming even karate move better. See? Threw you off there. Didn't know it was going to happen.
No. Caught me completely off guard.
Yeah.
You'd be great at sneak attacks if you didn't announce them.
I believe I'm perfect at sneak attacks.
Catch my surprise!
Sneak attack to your throat. Yeah, sneak attack to your throat, Nick.
All right. Let's get into a recap. We are going to kick things off with My Hero Academia. Last time, the conflict between Bakugo and Deku was resolved, with All Might encouraging them to learn from each other. But we still have some consequences of them, sneaking out and fighting to deal with, because
they broke the rules.
Yeah. It broke the rules. They're bad kids. Look at Deku, living outside the law, living on the edge.
This freakish punk is gonna be shooting his heroin before you know it. Shooting smack. Yeah,
slicking his hair up into a pompadour, skipping school.
Before you know,
riding a motorcycle around.
He'll be coming up and doing. He'll be only showing up 5 minutes early instead of 10 minutes early. That fucking monster.
He won't have color tabs in his books anymore. He'll just highlight them without marking the page. It's chapter number 121, second semester opening ceremony. Basically, a little bit of continuation of the conversation between All Might and Deku and Bakugo. All Might mostly speaks with Bakugo for a bit, talking about what it means to be a hero, and also giving him more of the full backstory about All for One, and how he was injured and why he decided to pass on his powers to Deku. But that's all done in summary. We don't see, the same explanation that took chapters previously, all done in real time again. So, wise decision there.
Yeah.
Bakugo, from all of this, says, okay, yeah, this is obviously really important. Hey, Deku, you idiot, why did you blab about this to me? It's kind of important you keep this a secret. So All Might draws all of this stuff to a close by saying, it was my choice to run out of power in the way that I did. It wasn't your fault. But Bakugo just says, well, that still means, that I have to surpass your example. I have to become stronger than you and become the number one hero, basically. So, but he does say to Deku that it's not going to be like it was before. I'm going to make all my skills my own and keep rising even higher than you.
I love Deku's response to this. It's like, I'm going to surpass you. And then, Baku just kind of gives him a look. He's like, no, I'm saying I'm going to be better than you. That's my whole point, you idiot. And he's like,
yeah, and I can't accept that, so I have to, because I have to be better than you.
It's like Bakugo has pure, just passion driven into it, and Bakugo, Deku's almost saying it like it's like a responsibility, but I must be better than you. It's just like, no, I'm saying that's what I'm doing. I'm gonna get stronger than you because I'm always gonna be better. He's like, I can't allow that. I must be better. It's like, you fucking nerd.
Such dorks, both of them. All Might is actually glad to see them bickering like this because they're more like true rivals than ever before. But as they make their way back to the dorms, Aizawa catches them. Well, he doesn't catch them, but basically once they get back inside, he ties them up with his bandages. and gets absurdly pissed off. And he even makes a note of, "Oh, you're fighting with each other after your exam. I'm so glad to hear you've got the energy for that." Kind of a, "Oh, you had all that, so I guess you didn't give your all in the exams," kind of thing. All Might tries to apologize on their behalf. And we get a very brief flashback to, oh yeah, All Might was that figure that confronted Aizawa to prevent him from going after Deku and Bakugo earlier before. So All Might takes responsibility for the two of them fighting with each other, and he gives a brief explanation of what Bakugo was going through, and says, yeah, it was my failure that led to them having this fight. So Aizawa goes a little bit more light on them, but he says, yeah, but you still broke the rules, so you're gonna get punished for this. Both of them assume responsibility for causing the fight, and Aizawa sentences them to be on. He essentially grounds them. He says, you're on lockdown, and you are going to clean the communal spaces for the next 4 days for Bakugo and 3 for Deku. And also he tells them to write essays. Essentially, you're done doing menial labor, and then you're going to write, I will not fight my teammates on the board 100 times.
It's like, god damn. This is fucking no chill, Aizawa. What the fuck, brah?
I like how because he's pointing at them while he's making his declaration, his hand that's sticking forward is drawn in this very angular style. It's really weird and eye-catching.
It's only something Horikoshi Sensei can do. It's just that very unique, sharp art style of his.
But only on his hand. His face is drawn normally.
What happens that there's certain angles that Horikoshi's really good at drawing, and this is an angle or a situation where it really comes across prominently.
So time passes. We see Deku and Bakugo, vacuuming the floors and stuff while everyone reacts to the news that they got. Ida observes that they're going to miss the opening ceremony for the semester.
Oh no!
Yeah. And Todoroki also observes the fact that, hey, they've got those special courses that they're supposed to do for their licenses, and Bakugo got to miss out on that because he's on lockdown. While they're cleaning after everybody's left, Deku just kind of strikes up a conversation. He says, hey, what do you think of my shoot style? And Bakugo actually gives him some advice, because he says, you're telegraphing your moves too much. You're faster, but I still manage to react in time. That's not good for melee fighting. So you should add punches to them. When you add punches to the miss, that actually really pissed me off.
Well, that's what's interesting. I can understand him, giving him the critique, because that's, it's Bakugo shitting on Deku. It's something I'm sure he almost kind of relishes the opportunity to do. But what's surprising is him admitting something Deku did was surprising and effective.
Yeah.
So that's actually, I feel like, a pretty small but important thing to note, that he finally kind of gives him a compliment.
Yeah. It's not nearly as backhanded when he actually provides constructive criticism.
Yeah.
We cut to the rest of the group as they head to their opening ceremonies. Ida is being very hey, everyone, come on, let's get in line and not screw things up. And I was like, God, you're such a stick in the mud, Ida. But this is my job!
Fucking nerd.
They come across Class B, including frickin' Monoma, with his stupid act.
I always forget, what's his power?
I don't know. He didn't really fight in the skirmish during the training arc. So
I'm gonna look it up, because I feel like I've had to have seen it at some point, but I'm such a loser otherwise.
So Kirishima is thinking, oh, yeah, were you the one person in your class that failed the exam? And Moa says, no, actually, all of us passed.
He can copy other people's quirks.
Huh.
I guess we probably don't remember, because I think the only time he actually used it was during the school festival, which kind of happened in that blank time between when we first recapped, or did it as a recommendation, and when we started actually reading it.
Yeah.
So he hasn't done anything since then, I don't believe.
we are introduced to one of the students of Class B, Pony Sunatori, American.
I don't know why the American part needs to be there. I'm not sure what would have, like... I'm almost waiting for her to have, like, an American flag bikini on or something like that underneath. Like, I'm like, where's the American come in?
Well, she says Teacher Vlad. Maybe that, I don't know. It's
oh my
always
god, I love
weird.
it. America's, like, full of vampires?
It's really weird whenever there is, you know, an American or someone who speaks a lot of English in a manga or anime, when that is then, you know, adapted to English, because then what do you do in order to explain how they're a weird foreigner?
Yeah.
How do
you explain the fact that they're not
be French or?
Yeah.
But there you go, I guess. Because there is like a little bit of awkwardness, and they do observe like, oh yeah, she's a foreigner, and she tries to say, you know, like, we are going to grind you into dust, and yeah, Monoma is laughing because like he taught her to say that, and she's very confused over it. But it's like it's so weird. It's like, oh, she's American, so she doesn't understand this phrase.
Yeah, it's like it's translated to English for the rest of us.
One of those barriers to adaptation. Shinso is also there, of course. And everyone kind of catches his attention. Everyone's kind of looking at him because they're like, "Oh, he looks pretty tough, actually." Shinso, if you don't recall, has the ability to control people if they speak near him.
Essentially, like Purple Man. If you watch Jessica Jones Kilgrave a little bit, though, not as he. There's a little bit more of a condition for it to happen.
Mm-hmm. And he has a complex because it's a villainous ability, but he wants to be a good guy.
And I believe this is where I kept getting this wrong. He's not part of Class A or B. He's not in the hero course. He's part of, I think, General Studies.
Yeah, because there's like the engineering group.
Yeah, support group, General Studies. They list all of it a little bit forward from here.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he's part of the other groups that are going to the school, but he's not in the hero course.
The principal starts giving a lecture, and he goes on and on about fur quality for at first.
Why wouldn't you?
And I like there's stuff going on because Kaminari is like just thinking, God, he's just going on about something completely irrelevant to what's going on. But Ojiro's tail is in his face while he's thinking that to himself. It's such a weird little detail that has nothing to do with what's going on. Finally, the principal gets to the point, which is, hey, you know, we've lost All Might, so you've got to be more aware of the threats out there than ever. Especially those of you who are in the hero course. You've got to really pick things up because the world is more dangerous than ever. Be more aware of threats. And then he moves on to say, like, oh yeah, you know, we're trying to do our best from making things super dreary. We hope to inspire an industrious ethic in you young men and women. The business course, the general studies course, the support course, and the hero course, do not forget that it's all of you who will inherit this society. And then he walks off, you know, from the podium. He's like, I kept it nice and short. Ha! No, you didn't. All Might is there observing everything, and he recalls a conversation that he had with the principal earlier on. The principal saying, if it's a successor you're searching for, you'll find no fire environment for young talent than UA. Join us as an educator. Back. Really having trouble talking today. And there was I guess a suggestion that he made. And all my recall is when I was looking for my successor, I got a request from UA that there was already someone here who would make the perfect successor. And he looks into the crowd, and I believe that this is Shinso that he's looking at. I'm fairly certain that's who it is.
It's really tough to say.
It's hard to tell from the side because, that's an angle we don't really see characters at too often. And Shinso's hair isn't the most distinct in the world.
Yeah. It's
a lot of people have that poofed out hairstyle.
I'm not sure if he is or not. I would assume that it's not, but it could very well possibly. I feel like the eyebrows maybe are a little bit different, but I just didn't consider him when it happened. I thought it was maybe them introducing us to a new character, but regardless of who it is, I mean, it's kind of an interesting premise that All for One, or at least the principal, kind of already saw a successor for All for One, One for All rather, within the school itself. So, kind of curious to find out what that's about, since obviously it went to Deku instead.
Yeah. It'd be that kind of that Neville Longbottom situation. There could have been a different chosen one.
Yeah, but this is a Neville who apparently didn't work out, though, in some way, because obviously he was chosen not to do it. It wasn't like Harry Potter showed up and he's like, this is a far better successor.
Oh, this powerless guy is going to work out instead. Got it.
This dude with no abilities at all is much better than this Neville Fat Bottom or something. Long Bottom! Long Bottom! Neville fat shit over there. No! Stop getting
I'm gonna grow to be really hot just to spite you.
Sure you are, Neville Fat. It's not. You're not even getting the bottom part anymore.
Neville chubby fat stain.
Big
blob.
Big tubby butt fat ugly face. Like, that's so many more words than my name is.
Mega husk chunk.
Stop it. I'm paying to go to this school. This isn't fair.
Paying and humiliation.
Yeah, I think it's going to be kind of interesting to see what happens from this. It's an addition to the overall narrative of the All Might story that I wasn't kind of expecting, the idea that there was someone else in line before Deku that was passed over. If it is Shinso, I mean, that'd be incredible. I think he was a really interesting character and definitely one I'd like to see more of. So even the fact he just got the little pass by with people being like, wow, he feels like he's gotten stronger was pretty cool for me because I like that character. But I think regardless of who it is, it's at least an intriguing proposition. I'll have to see how that actually works out because I was also really excited for Yaroshi, whatever his name was, and that did not turn out to be particularly exciting, but we shall see.
It's also going to be interesting because they make a note of the fact that classes A and B are going to be taking some classes together at this point. Mm-hmm. So we should be seeing some more of Tetsu and company.
Tetsu!
Yes.
All right. Let's move on then to Fairy Tail. 2 chapters for this week. A double dosage since we were without Fairy Tail 1 week. So this is going to be Fairy Tail chapters 515 and 516. Starting with 515. I am you. ... You are me. So we're in the flashback for Irene, Urza's mom, who is trying to explain why she has dragon lineage within her and everything that's happening. And the way it's explained is that she was married to a general from a neighboring country, and it was a political marriage made at the time when humans warred with each other over territory. The two of them were kind of like on-field like partners, more or less, and he was there when she had to say goodbye to Belsarion, which is the dragon. But he had nothing but contempt for the countless dead bodies he left in his wake. And after this, Urza's mom, Irene, started exhibiting the transformation into a dragon that she mentioned last week. And apparently her husband was such a, like, inconsolable douchebag that he's like, you're a monster! You're a freakish monster! So, it's not just that he's like, I'm angry, like, I find you hideous and despicable. He's like, I find you so detestable that I'm gonna put you through a litany of fetishy horseshit. He's like,
I'm evil. Evil, 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 evil.
It is a flat out like 3-page just fucking burial of this guy immediately. Like, no, don't like Urza's dad. He's a dickhead. He screams about how he doesn't want a monster for a child when referring to the fact that Irene is pregnant with Urza. He imprisons Irene, has her tortured, which is, of course, like a vaguely sexual kind of torture.
I mean, like, because she's wearing this thing that barely covers her body for the actual torture, and they make note of the fact that at one point she is essentially crucified while naked.
She's displayed, she's displayed nude, she's beaten, she's tortured, and then thrown back in her cell to, I guess, be miserable and in pain. And the entire time, she's noting, like, I'll protect my child. And the husband comes to it and he's like, your date of execution's been determined. She's like, please spare the life of this child. He's like, hey, I was kind of curious. It's been 3 years. Are you going to have this kid? And apparently, Irene has been using magic to delay her own birth. And it's a very, very effective delay. Because not only has it been 3 years that she hasn't had this fucking kid yet, she's not even showing. Because that wouldn't be sexy, I guess. Exactly. It's 3 years.
That would go into too many sub fetishes if it were torture, dragon, pregnant.
Yeah. 3 years, not even a bump. So he, of course, is so evil. He's like, I'm going to split you in two. And she goes super dragon evil. I don't know if it's explicitly noted that she kills him, but she crushes him underneath his claw, and I don't know if it's meant that he'll be around anymore. God fucking knows he probably will. Fairy tale. Urza will have to have her comeuppance against him maybe, but she turns into a dragon, goes out, goes crazy, starts flying about after escaping.
Pretty cool looking dragon.
It's not bad. I feel like heroes are usually pretty good at drawing dragons and things like that. As she's flying about, she's screaming like, I'm a human. Somebody help me. I'm a human. I'm not a dragon. I want to be a human again. Put me in my human body. And several centuries pass of her doing this. And you can just...
With you in my womb all the while.
Yeah. Has not given birth to Urza yet. And you can only assume then that in this time, in these several centuries, she's just gone bananas. Because she finally does meet Zareth. And he does allow her, he uses his magic to turn her back into a human. But then, even though she's a human, she finds food doesn't have a taste to it, and she can't sleep, and she's cold, and she's itchy, and she doesn't really feel like a real human, and she's talking to herself, I am a human, I want to give birth to my child as a human, my human child with a human body, dun 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 dun. And she comes up with this idea that she could give birth to her child and enchant the child in such a way that she could then take over the child's body. So that's like her new villainous plan, that she will give birth to the child and then take over its body and thus be able to live a normal life. However,
it didn't work.
It didn't work. It didn't work. And it's almost like it's thrown away in like a 3-sentence thing. Like, it didn't work. So I threw you away like garbage. I guess she's like, I threw you away into a weird slavery tower thing.
I made sure to find the worst possible place a child could be born, and I tossed you into there.
Chucked you.
'Cause you were worthless to me.
But Urza says, I thank you for bringing me into this world, and I have to thank you for abandoning me as well, because if you hadn't, I would have never found my true family. And she says this as she fucking X-quips into a fucking, like, bunny outfit, which it wouldn't be annoying in and of itself.
Bunny armor.
Like, it wouldn't be so just, like, obviously weird. Like, the whole, like, kind of general outfit would be okay, except that she has to actually have like a fucking helmet with bunny ears on it. Like,
it's so weird. It doesn't do a damn thing.
You're just like, if you just got rid of it, I'd consider it like everything else, but the fucking bunny ears are really weird. Unnecessary. I'm not going to talk too much on this chapter to try to get everything together, but I will just note that the backstory explanation there felt really gratuitously like evil to Urza's mom. I don't know. Chapter 516 then follows us up, The Essence of Enchant. And what happens here is Urza is now committed to fighting against Irene, and they have a battle. And not only does Urza fight, Wendy is getting involved as well, because she, to quote, says, "You said you do not love your own daughter, and that is something I cannot forgive." So the two of them are working in tandem, and
I'm here too.
oh fuck, I didn't even notice this. When Urza does the attack, she has a little fucking cotton bunny tail too. Good lord. Why?
Like every single lunge that Urza does seems to be for the purpose of bending over and spreading her legs so that you can see her bunny leotard camel toe.
I'm almost used to that, but I'm just like, why would the armor you bring up for such an important fight have a bunny tail on it? It would be like, you know, like how Bunny Ribbon has that bunny costume, like skin. It'd be like if that became her default one or something like that. You're like, I get it to a point, but this is pretty ridiculous for something that's meant to be taken seriously. However, because Wendy has interfered, Irene starts to talk to her, and she's like, "Oh, my little dragon slayer, you do remember the dragon seed I spoke of? The one that will turn you all into dragons? There's an identical one inside of you." And Wendy's like, "Yeah, I know. But my mom used magic to make sure none of us would actually turn into dragons." You're like, all right. I feel like this could have been brought up a little bit more earlier. Rather than like abruptly being like, "Yeah, but it doesn't affect us."
It is a really, I mean, yeah, between the two chapters, I got it into my head after hundreds of years of suffering, wanting a human body again. I realized I could enchant myself into you, but it didn't work. And then, of course, you have there is this thing inside of all dragon slayers that will slowly turn them into monstrous dragons. Yeah, but that won't work.
Yeah, doesn't work on us. My mom protected us from it. But she didn't tell you about it, apparently?
It's not even like imagine even if so much as like this declaration took place in just like a full page spread, like just an image of Ariana Grande or Yosa or whatever the fuck her name was, just of her like an image of her like clustered protectively around like the 5 dragon slayers. Just in a full page spread with Wendy saying, "Thanks to my mother's magic, she suppressed the dragon seed so that we won't dragonify." Like, even that would be so much better than what we get, which is there's so much going on that it has to happen in a rush of panels.
It's probably something.
There's no way to this thing that like, oh, that danger that's going to affect Natsu and the other dragon slayers. It's actually, you know, it doesn't exist. Everything's going to be fine.
I feel like it probably is something that was explained at one point throughout the various points of this series, but because Fairy Tail likes to introduce a lot of the like details of a plot point at once, it's something that going back, yes, retroactively, if I remembered everything that happened in Fairy Tail, I could probably be like, oh yeah, there was that one line that said something like that. But very little things are really hinted at going forward, so it's kind of like a confusing element of trying to remember all that stuff and then grasping the fact that all these details are kind of coming out at once in a rather clunky manner. Because we then cut away to Natsu, who is still in his fucking heart dream sequence.
Right.
And I don't even know who... Oh, it's Ignel who's talking to him, who says, "You have a dragon seed inside of you too, but I stopped its growth, and it should have remained dormant forever." Natsu presumes that it's because he left his body that the seed is now not dormant anymore. But Ignel's like, "No, it's because there's a demon seed within you, the end of root, and the 2 seeds are attempting to merge at one, and you are going to die. Suck it." It's like,
sorry, bro.
I'm like, fair enough. So we cut back to Irene, and she's like, see, so the dragon slayers, or the dragons, entered your bodies to keep the dragon seeds from growing. But this is very good for me, because I needed a magic. Basically, I couldn't inhabit my own daughter. It didn't work that way. But...
For some reason.
Oh, sorry, hold on. There's actually a little bit between that where she gets really angry, and she's like, "I just want my body back!" And they have a little fucking fight. They boost stats, which still sounds fucking stupid. I have to go back and see if the official translation...
It's not fair!
But
I want to be a human.
Yeah, I want to go back and read when I think Urza first introduced one of her new armors, and someone described her like, with that armor, she takes half damage from fire attacks. It's like, what a fucking video gamey way to describe things. And that's what Wendy's powers always are. She's like, I boost your physical attributes by double. And I'm like, thanks, fucking game facts. But Irene's countering with her own enchantment spells, and she's like, weren't compatible. That's why it didn't work out. But what is compatible is a dragon slayer and an enchanter. You are compatible, and I can take over your body. And she actually does it. She starts, spreading her influence into Wendy instead. And she's like, oh, how I waited for this moment. My magical abilities have been reduced, but that is of no matter. It's like, why didn't you just wait until you killed what's her name and then take it? I feel like this is
kill Urza and then become Wendy.
Yeah, she's like, now I have it. A new body, a new lifetime. Irene has been reborn. I better give myself an important haircut to celebrate this monumental occasion.
Oh man, this dress isn't nearly cleavage boosting enough.
It needs to be a little shorter too. I was like, it's barely a dress. Don't do this.
It's such an awkward way to end the chapter with evil Wendy.
It's just something where you're just, I don't know. That's the chapters for this week, and we do get a lot of details out of this. And I feel like the amount of detail placed on the fact that Urza's mom had such a shitty past means she'll probably get a redemption in the end. Like, as she's dying, she'll probably be like, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to do this to you, and Urza will share a fucking moment with her. And if this arc, or this series goes for another arc, her mom will get to come back and give like a hero moment and fight alongside Urza. Probably in like matching fucking leopard bikinis or something like that. But yeah, the Wendy thing, I mean, it
seems to have come out of nowhere.
It did. It didn't really feel like this was the most important kind of, it doesn't scare me. Like, it's the thing. Like, I feel like for something like this, you should be like, oh my god. But the fact that it's Wendy, who's never really been all that cool. And two, she already knows I got weaker to go into this form. It's not like, now that I'm in a human body, my power's amplified even greater. It's like, no, I got shittier to use a body you don't care about.
I mean, I could have turned it, since I hate Urza so much, I could have turned into a dragon and ate her.
Yeah.
But,
So, I don't know. We'll have to see what kind of comes out of this, but it's definitely not.
I guess this also has the advantage of she's no longer fighting Urza and Wendy, too. She's only got to fight Urza.
Yeah, she has that advantage going for her. She has neutralized her, but it's just that fact of, like, having to note, I got weaker to get into this form. It's just like, I feel like that's something you wouldn't want to mention, because it kind of takes away from the whole body transfer thing. Even
also knowing how powerful and dominant Irene's magic is, because she did, of course, do that, continent rearranging magic. So we know that she's got incredible abilities. But even with that, it just kind of seems to just happen really easily for her to just take over and transfer her consciousness to someone else's body. It just happens.
Yeah, she doesn't
really quickly.
She doesn't have to be next to them or anything like that. I just want to know, too, I forgot about it until you mentioned it. How fucking worthless was that continent rearranging thing? She's like, I split up Fairy Tale for a couple weeks. Didn't do anything else.
It gave us time to regather the Spring and 12.
All the fucking good that did. Yeah, that's Fairy Tale. We missed 2 chapters, but I don't know if we missed all that much.
Not really. Okay. So then we are going to be moving on to Food Wars, Shokugeki no Soma. Hopefully winding down the Saiba flashback. So it is chapter 197, The Scarred One. Which sounds way too badass for... And then he cooked food, honestly.
Yeah.
We open with basically just everyone for the Polaris Dorm kind of just walking down the street through campus. Everyone, making note of how badass they are. Even Shiomi is getting attention, even though she's this little first year at this point. Of course, Saiba is the one who's getting the most attention out of all of them. we see Joichiro presenting a dish to a group of, freaking, what do you even call them? Patrons to the university. Oh, he's in another competition.
Yeah.
A female judge's clothes explode off. He wins a trophy. He's like, yay!
I kind of enjoy this because it's like the judge is like, I'm the daughter of a historic restaurant. No matter what the taste is, I must remain dignified. Takes the bite. Oh, my clothes! Boom! Orgasm, orgasm, orgasm. It's just like, you shouldn't have thought it. That was what your bad part was.
You shouldn't have built yourself up. You should have just relaxed.
You kind of did yourself in with that.
You were working yourself up already. So, Saiba, people are like, oh yeah, can you try out my dish? Oh yeah, sure. Can we make a competition out of it? No. Can you just no? You'll make me have a food orgasm, and then you won't even no. Jun makes the observation that Saiba hasn't been making any of his weird mashups recently. You know, the squid with peanut butter kind of stuff. Saiba's like, oh, well, if you want to try some stuff, then, okay, but yeah, it is a note that both she and Dojima make, which is, you used to do this daily, and you sometimes even made them for shokugekis. And Saiba counters with, well, you're the one who, yelled at me whenever I would, screw around like that. So basically they're just noting a change in his behavior. And Azami and Dojima have a conversation later on when they're doing council work, in the typical, we have mountains of paper in front of us that we have to sign and fill out. And it's like, how can a high school group have this much work to do? They look like it looks like this is their freaking full-time job. Let's see here. Dojima basically notes that Saiba doesn't really have any competition anymore. Everyone's too intimidated by him ever since, he did that 50-on-1 challenge a few months beforehand. We actually get a brief introduction to the fourth seat on the council, who doesn't get any lines. She's just kind of there with them, handling paperwork.
I imagine she must be a character who's going to be prominent in some fashion later on, because there's the title page for this week shows the Polaris Storm kind of walking forward, and it's the three characters we obviously know, and then June. She's in there, and there's also another guy who's kind of prominently in that shot, who's kind of like got like a punkish kind of slouch going on to him.
Yeah,
and I feel like these
Greek and Ebizawa, the fourth seat, is also with them.
Yeah, so I feel like it's likely going to be possibly a character who is significant later on, maybe like a teacher or something like that. Who knows? But
it's not like Shokugeki no Soma doesn't have enough characters as it is.
Or fuck, it could be Soma's mom. Who knows?
That's a good point. We never met her.
She dies from food orgasm. It's too delicious.
Saiba and his wife never actually had sex. He just fed her food and an immaculate conception.
Well, they called it an immaculate confection because it was a really delicious cake that happened. But for God's sake, she had a virgin oil birth. But still, you get what I'm going at here. It's really a miracle.
Oh my God, we get it. You've never gotten laid. Oh.
He's like, but if you consider the amount of women I've given orgasm to with my food, I am a skank.
They really want to taste of my sausage. No, really, they like my sausage.
Yeah, I have great sauce. My kielbasa is amazing. Also, my dick tastes yummy.
My spotted dick.
Spotted dick, of course. He's like, I fucking hate you, Jotaro. I hate you so much.
Anyway. So, time goes by. Joichiro randomly barges in to challenge Dojima and Azami to another cooking competition, and they say, "Hey, don't you, have to get to a competition in a few days, and then next month you've got the, the blue to prepare for." he's like, oh, come on. I've got to keep my sense of competition honed. Come on, let's do it. And, we can have a shokugeki. We then get a visual continuing the, Joichiro was the one who blazed the path and we follow behind him metaphor. And Dojima is thinking to himself, oh, Azami was probably right. I'm not worried. I'm worrying over nothing. Joichiro was fine. He could stand up to any storm, no matter how harsh. But within the visual, as they're striving forward, a branch comes flying through the air, and it hits Saiba in the arm. And they're like, oh, are you all right? Yeah, I'm fine. But he's got a bleeding gash in the arm. Is this metaphor getting through to you, Chris? He's striving down, he's blazing a path, but it's wearing down on him. Mentally.
I guess this is trying to say something about his relationship with his father? Not sure I'm getting the symbolism here.
And have sex with your mother. That is why you're always making the sausage jokes.
Your father is the branch coming through the wind, smacking you in the arm.
Sometimes a sausage is just a cigar.
By the way, I loved your cigar kielbasa that you gave me. It was very tasty. I am Italian now. I'm leaping off the walls, Mario style.
Famous Italian psychologist
Sigmund
Freud. The most Italian person.
Antonio the Freud, as you know.
My name is Mario Freud.
You don't want to know.
This is good.
I tell you what you think about the companion, and I make a very nice pizza pie.
It's me, Dr. Mario Freud. You got to match up the colors in order to psychoanalyze.
And you have to figure out your Oedipus of complex.
Oh, God. We get a montage of people, having high expectations of Saiba. Judges being like, "Oh, you'll lead us into like a freaking glory area," and even foreign news programs are talking about him, about a high school cooking student. I should point out. Anyway, all the while, Saiba is getting more and more torn up by his journey into the Howling Winds, and he's thinking to himself, if I'm going to clinch the gold medal of the blue, I have to reach yet another new world of taste. And then what kind of dish will I make after that? What will be my next goal? The next. Which goal is next? I have to keep moving forward, keep finding new gourmet, new flavors. And as he's thinking this, he starts to eventually just start limping along with one of his legs isn't working anymore, so he keeps on trying to push towards his next goal. It eventually gets to the point where it's like the day before the competition, and we see through Saiba's eyes as people are giving him some last minute encouragement. Fumio is saying, hey, you should get some rest tonight, and maybe think about having a sabbatical afterwards. And Azami saying, I'm so privileged to get to watch you from this close a vantage point, and I have so many hopes for tomorrow. And then eventually Dojima comes to him and he starts to say something, but he's like, do your best tomorrow. Until we eventually see Saiba just kind of staring down at his own reflection in a plate, and he sees that battered image that we've got in the metaphor to this point. And it's the next day, and Dojima goes into Saiba's room to try and get him ready for him to be taken to the blue. And he's not there. His clothing and his bags have been abandoned, and he's nowhere to be found as the competition is getting ready to start. So, seems that Saiba had a good old burnout.
Yes. Which feels like it's very much in line with kind of what we know about him. Like the fact that despite being so amazing, he works humbly as like a chef in a restaurant, like a family restaurant, that it kind of took a little coercing to take a big, prestigious job. Why people kind of look at him in this weird way. I'm sure there's more to the story than just what we're getting here, but this is the first time throughout this flashback that I've kind of been like, okay, I'm kind of interested to see where this goes. It's still not entirely like 100% really like impressive to me, just because of the sense that I still don't really know where Joichiro's place in the story really is, if it's that significant that this is the right time for a flashback for this and how relevant it's going to be going forward. Because, I mean, is that something they're suggesting Soma might run into or something like that? But it is still at least interesting to be like, all right, so we got an idea on what Soma's dad did, what happened to him, why he's in the place he is, and possibly why certain characters, you know, particularly Azami, feel about him the way they do.
It's possible that he fears that the approach that Azami takes to, you know, dedicate your whole life to cooking and stuff could cause that sense in some people. Instead of like cultivating a love for cooking, it just becomes something that they feel that they have to do until they can't go on any further. Which Azami is probably fine with because, you know, that's just breaking people down, and the ones that crumble are discarded, and then you keep the ones that, you know, are turned into diamonds.
Well, it's also that notion too that both, you know, Soma and Joichiro have, where they like making weird stuff, and he stopped doing that. He's kind of been told not to. It's weakening his ability to be an actually effective chef. So I have to feel like because he's focused so much on just doing the like best possible results, and he's not thinking creatively so much anymore, he's not doing what kind of interests him. Because of all that, it's killing him slowly. You know, if you make your job too robotic and you take away the creativity and fun that was in it before, it's understandable that eventually you might just get burned out by it. Especially if you're that talented too, you're that amazing, nothing challenges you, and you can't even think, well, I'll do something weird instead, you know?
Yeah.
Fun chapter, though.
We definitely got I think the most interesting part of the flashback so far. As we went to the Promised Neverland, which also begins with a flashback to an adult character's youth. As we see Krone when she was introduced to the world of monsters and was given the chance to try to become a mom. And she says, "My teacher, known as Grandma, told me, compete. That is how we survive." And then we get our cover page, the chapter title, 21 Blatant Trap. And there's Mom and Krone sitting together, having tea, sitting on a mountain of corpses.
As you do.
It's a great visual. I say that almost every time we get a cover page for this series.
They're always really interesting shots, though.
So, we cut to the present where Krone is talking with Norman and Emma, offering them information. And we had a little flashback from their perspective of, you know, Gyoda warning them. Was like, oh, you know, what are you going to do? You know, she's luring you into her spider's web. She's going to snare you. But Norman and Emma reassure her, we know what she's up to, but, you know, we just have to, you know, not give her any evidence, and we're not going to trust her then those are the only two things that she can actually get that could hurt us. And while we're doing that, we'll get as much information as we can. We see that Ray does know what's going on with them, even though he's not attending the meeting together with them. But he warns them, you know, the information she gives you might not be the truth. She's probably going to mix in some lies here and there. But they've got a chance to gain stuff from her, so they're going to take it. So, Norman and Emma basically have their questions planned out from the beginning. They know exactly what they're going to ask her, so that there aren't any surprises, and so that they can also gauge whether she's telling the truth when she talks to them or not. So Norman begins by asking, how do adults feel when they kill children? Or he doesn't actually ask that. He asks, what, you'll answer anything even if we ask you that? And she's like, yeah, sure. And then they don't ask that, which is kind of weird. But Emma says, okay, why don't you show me the device that shows where we are with the tracking devices? And Krone's like, yeah, sure. Here. Gives her a pocket watch. Yeah, check it out. So Krone then inquires, oh, you knew that there were tracking devices. And Norman says, yeah, well, Mom actually blatantly showed it to us one time. So, yes, we did know about that. And Krone says, but you don't know where they are or how to break them, and that's why you can't escape. And Emma says, oh, so you know where they are. And she's like, yeah, it's in your left ear, right around here. So I don't know how to break them, but when one is broken, it will display, it'll notify the display, which is the Baka Watch, and it'll also alert headquarters. So you would have to take it out or cut it off in order to actually disable it. And Norman says, oh yeah, and there aren't any, good blades in the house. There's no knives. There's not even a kitchen knife. And once we're outside where there's no medicine, yeah, if you actually cut it out, then, you could have blood loss. You get an infection. But Krone observes, well, there is actually a scalpel in the facility. Just in case, there's an injury within the plant, there are, antibiotics and tools and anesthesia. There should probably be enough that you could actually take, out the devices for 5 kids. And hey, I'll even lend you the keys so that you can go get them. And I'll teach you how to do the procedure.
And I'll give you $5 because you're such great kids.
Here, you cute little buggers. What else do you need?
Sounding way too good here.
It's like when your grandparents visit. It's like, here, have all this stuff that you didn't ask for. Thank you.
Thanks, Grandma. Can you not go on the radio then and talk about what a dank meme fucking Lionel Richie is? I'll do what I want.
Emma then asks how old Krone is and has she been a product since she was born. And Krone, first of all, says, how rude to ask a lady her age. Choosing that time in order to be all... But she says that she's 26, which I will admit that my estimations probably pegged her at being much older than that. She seems like she's drawn to be older than Mom, honestly.
Possibly.
But she says that she was born and raised in Gracefield House and that Isabella, the mom, is 31. And she was also born on the farm and raised there, according to what she's seen in the records, which surprises Emma and Norman because she was born before the date that the book was published. So, and also, both of the two of them aren't from the outside, despite them having books that were published afterwards. Norman asks if Krone has ever seen the outside, and they're surprised when she says this because she's like, oh, what, did you think that I would say yes even if I was lying? No, I haven't. But there are humans who are on the outside. Your food is made by the higher-ups and us adults, but there are humans who bring your clothes and other supplies from the outside. Furniture, test materials, toys, books. And I've seen a human at headquarters once. The human was in equal standing with them. There are humans who won't get eaten outside. You need to get mixed in with them.
It's interesting, too, because also from the image there, I mean, it could be either, but it definitely seems like it looks like a male figure. So that would be the first instance we've seen of any kind of
adult male.
Existing. Or I mean, we could kind of guess that what's his name? Minerva is still alive.
William Minerva, yeah,
is at least potentially out there. But the insinuation that human males not only are alive but actually can exist within standings with the others. It's interesting. That's a interesting proposition because it almost sounded like no, they're just worthless. We maybe use them for breeding and fuck off, but perhaps that's not the case.
If books are being brought into the testing facilities and there are messages like this from William Minerva, it's a possibility that he is actually working as like a publisher that provides these supplies for these farms, and he's just trying to covertly warn the children and help them in the only way that he even can at all. Of course, Norman does, and Emma are of course taking all of this information with a grain of salt, just in case. It's like, okay, this could very well be a lie, and then she's just providing us with false hope, or trying to throw us down the wrong path. So we do have to consider that. they then go on to ask, oh, so you don't even know how long the demons have been around or how the world came to be this way. And Krone is actually surprised briefly because she's like, what, demons? Oh, you mean them? Which is interesting. But I mean, it makes sense. They've only caught, a glimpse of the monsters. The name demon is just something that they call them.
Yeah.
And they don't even look like traditional demons in very much of the sense. They're these big, monstrous, lots-of-eyed creatures. So I think that it is unnecessarily vague for her to say them, but...
Well, that's because the actual term for them they can't fucking say, apparently.
That's true, yeah. Anyway. They ask, okay, where's the farm located? I don't know. I don't know how the world came to be like this. I don't know where the monsters came from. I don't know about the security around the farm. She actually does, actually. She says, yeah, they rely on the tracking devices for security. They don't have many guards posted. I'm sure they don't even patrol. But Emma and Norman are suspicious of this because they're like, nah, there's no way that escaping would be this easy. Just getting rid of the tracking devices and then sneaking out through the gate or over the wall. There's no way that that's the end of it. So they thank her for the information, and Krone's like, oh, okay. But she's thinking to herself as they start to make their way off, they're smart kids. They don't reveal anything by leaping information that they don't know is true. They understand. As long as they don't give me evidence, I will have no choice but to let them run away. But, and suddenly she just breaks out into hysterical laughter, like clutching her freaking gut while throwing her head back laughter. And she just yells out, you already knew the tracking device's location, how to get around it. Impressive. And they're like, what? What are you talking about? And she says, see, it's not just words that provide information. You both took care which words to use to be sure that I wouldn't figure out what you really wanted to know. You took great care in your questions and how to ask them, which I commend you for. But you let your guard down, knowing you had an advantage. Humans are made to give a lot of information even if they are just standing there. Attitude, your gaze, blinking, sweating, gestures, your pupils, pulse. All of these are hints of what you're really thinking. But both of you, even though I said it was in your ear, you didn't touch your ears to check. You found out how to get them out, but you didn't look happy at all. And Emma's like, oh shit, yeah, we did both do that when we first found out about it. And just by how they reacted to her information, they managed to tip her off to something that they know. They didn't provide her with any evidence, but yeah, it's playing up on the fact that Krone is someone who's played this game her whole life. She's been at this for more than twice as long as these kids have. And so they're pretty smart kids, but they lack experience not only when it comes to mom, but when it comes to her by far.
It's actually really kind of cool that we got this, because I was under the impression, and I kind of noted a couple times, I was like, I feel like Krone's just kind of like a goober antagonist to get in and out of the way at some point. Like, she wasn't going to be that smart. She'd have a moment, but ultimately she'd be foiled and kind of like, it would just be a stepping stone to the thing with mom. Because they kind of almost treated her like a joke for a while. Like, you only ever saw her was like, like her face showing up at the end to be like, or whatever. And you're like, oh, okay. But this goes to show, like, she's got a real, talent for this. She was able to kind of put them in a shitty situation, even though they thought they came out of it completely ahead. So it goes to show that she's not as easily conquered as people are kind of leading themselves to believe, myself included.
Mm-hmm. So before they head off, after all of this, she says, do you know about... I'm just going to do that. Because it's not even...
I was like, what? Nick, is there a cat attacking you?
It's not even like symbols, really, when she pronounces whatever the hell that is. This weird distortion in the bubble. And they're like, what? And she says, well, I'm sure you don't. Don't you want to? And she's like, what did you just say? I'll tell about it the next time you...
We may have had a small hiccup there with Nick.
Really put off by the way the end of the conversation went down.
There we go. Sorry, you froze there for a quick second on my end.
Oh, okay.
Oh, good.
Norman says, yeah, I mean, we underestimated her, but she still doesn't have any evidence yet. But Norman is still upset because I wasn't supposed to give any information from our side. That person's the same as Mom. She's an adult who survived this system at the farm. We need to hurry. We have to get out of here as soon as possible. We can't linger, and we have to make sure we thoroughly inspect the vicinity tomorrow. And we get the date is the time passes midnight. We cut to Mom in her office. It's now 6 days until the planned escape, and Mom puts away a book she's reading and just says to herself, I think it's about time. So it looks like she's on the move in some way.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what her on the move actually is, because there's a multitude of things she could be doing. You know,
there's a lot of things she could be doing.
It seems like she has an awareness of at least a lot of things kind of going on here. We already know a few things that she has in the works, like the idea of shipping Ray out earlier and things like that. So who knows exactly what ultimately this is, but it's interesting at the very least to be like, oh shit, Mom's stepping in and getting involved in more way, because she's been kind of a passive character for a while now. She had the bit there with like the rope and revealing that, you know, she's been working with Ray, but ultimately speaking, she hasn't done much to directly confront the group themselves since the whole thing with Krone coming in.
It feels like a lot of the reason why they've been able to make progress at all is because she hasn't deliberately stepped in to interfere with what they've been up to this point.
Exactly.
Yeah. Cool chapter. Yeah. It's good stuff from Krone, and yeah. It's what we both love about the Promised Neverland. That's perpetually raising the stakes kind of feeling without actually raising the stakes too much, but it always feels like it is.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's move on to Black Clover.
I feel like that enthusiasm isn't here. Nick, remember, karate poop, karate move.
Page 92 won't let you die. Well, Lodros has been defeated. Just
Yeah, you know, for the big deal they made about like the 8 real Diamond Generals, I feel like this hasn't been particularly notable. But hey, there's I guess 6 more who are going to be relevant. I don't know. I don't know.
So Fenzel and Mars land near Asta, and Asta's like, "Hey, what's that guy doing here? He's an enemy." And Mars says, "Asta, I am not your enemy. You can trust me." And Asta's like, "Who would believe a guy with an evil-looking mug like that?" Okay, Mr. Judgy. Jeez.
Yeah, it came out of nowhere.
Yeah. Your face ain't all that good to look at either, Asta. Mr. Stupid headband. So Mars replies with, honestly, rather justifiably, "My name is Mars, short stuff." It's like, well, if someone just said you have an evil-looking mug, like, yeah, insult his appearance. Do it, yes. And Asta's like, "You're rude for no reason. You said he looked evil. Fuck you, stupid little douchebag."
Called him a pasty-faced guy, too. So
yeah.
It's not like it's the first insult being thrown here.
Pasty-faced and evil-looking. You're lucky you only got away with short stuff. All right. So Fauna is still up.
"I'm gonna roast battle you, short stuff." Oh, and he's the only person doing it for himself, but he keeps like running around like he's different people. Oh, but fucking like puts on a wig, so shaves his head real quick. So he's Jeff Ross. That was amazing. The bravest joke I've ever seen in roast battle. You called him short stuff. Great stuff. I definitely give it to you. You were the only joke, but you still nailed it. You win. Puts on blackface real quick so he can be Kevin. Yo, that was amazing. That was hilarious. It's like, stop it, Mars. You don't need to do this.
Roast battle?
You ever heard of this? Roast battle.
No.
It's like how rap battles used to be, but with comedians. They just roast each other. It's really good shit. Check it out.
All right. Fenzel and Asta and Mars turn their attention to Fauna. And Mars is like, "Wait a minute, those flames, they're like mine." Fauna? Flashback. It's a very flashbacky week this week. Of course, he recalls, being put through horrible training when they were, in the Diamond Kingdom. Fauna giving him encouragement, and then her sacrificing her life to save him so that he could go and see the outside world instead in the final drill. Being brainwashed, surgically modified, gave me a grimoire that your power transplanted into it. Yes. Okay. All right. This is all covering information that we actually got in the series. So it's like, okay, this is fine. All right. Cool. Just don't give me like, let me give you my whole backstory that was contained in this light novel. Ever. Don't do that anymore. And even so, okay, so he says, I reclaimed my memories while I was fighting with Asta. Okay, good to know. Since then, in order to make amends to Fauna while out on cruel missions, I've been stealthily saving lives.
All right. Fair enough.
Okay. All right. And Morris currently controls the Diamond Kingdom from the shadows. It isn't the country Fauna loved. No, this is more important now. I don't know why, but Fauna's alive. And he's like, Fauna! Just starts running towards her. And Asta grabs onto him and he's like, you're going to die. Like, okay.
Is that the kind of character you are? And it's like,
look at me.
Why
look at
is
me.
Asta the one saying this? Why is Asta the one being like, whoa, you're being way too brazen and headstrong? Like, is the pot calling the fucking kettle black?
And ugly.
Yeah.
Don't forget that.
Yeah, pasty-faced and evil.
And evil, yeah. Fauna gets distressed as Mars does this. It seems that she looks confused mostly, and then says, wait a minute, I don't know you, and just launches fireball at them. And Vance is like, wait, you mean it's that Fauna? The one that I trained? Oh, I'd heard she died in one of his human experiments after I defected. But she does kind of look like her.
If you remember from the light novel that this all took place within, it's like, God damn it, go away.
So he's like, wait, that eye on her forehead is emitting a strange power. Is that group, the Eye of the Midnight Sun, controlling Fauna with that eye? That's a bit of a logical leap to make, I think. Okay, whatever.
I mean, it seems like a kind of like big thing to reveal too.
Yeah.
Like, I've been under the assumption that everyone within the Midnight Sun, particularly since that's the kind of impression we got from Beto, was that they were all doing this willingly out of like a legit, genuine affection for Leash. Misguided as it might be, that
right.
They all had their own reasons for doing it, but this seems to suggest some of them might be being controlled.
Yeah, having those thoughts implanted into their mind.
Yeah, I mean, it might not be true, and it may only be for Fauna, but I do feel like it slightly hurts that group's like intrigue if it's like, oh no, they're not actually all devoted to this person. Some of them are just like good people being manipulated.
They're evil because they brainwashed this girl.
Plus, This was kind of like an almost like very not throwaway, but a very insignificant moment to kind of reveal that on. Again, not 100%.
What is going on?
Yeah, not 100% confirmed that that's actually what this is, but.
Fauna starts to freak out. She says, oh, my head hurts. I hate you all. Everyone should disappear. Everyone starts freaking out because, she's emitting so much power that she's going to just raise the entire area that they're in right now. Mars is not even bothering to avoid being attacked despite all the fireballs being launched outwards. And Vent is like, come on, you have to block it. And Mars says, no, I have no right to block it. I killed Fauna. I don't deserve. And Asta just leans over and is like, I'm going to interrupt this with a comedic facial expression. Ah! Like, it's suddenly Sukomi Jackass. Like, he's like, don't be saying that. Bah! Like, fuck you, Asta. You don't know shit. And he's like, he starts giving him the wrong advice. Like, to begin with, is like, do you even know that's really your friend? She's in a terror group called the Eye of the Midnight Sun, so couldn't you just be a lookalike? Come on. And Mars says, I could never mistake somebody else for Fauna. She is my precious childhood friend. And I was like, hang on. Let me sift through my 5 friendship speeches to find the right one. Okay. This isn't time for you to be dying then. You should save that girl for real. And Mars is like, you're right. I'm sorry. And Vandal says, even you have Asta yelling at you the way he yelled at me. Is he a character in the series? Then he has Asta yelling at him. Like, okay, I've reached a point now where if Asta were to stop doing this, I mean, I would be happy, but I have to admit at this point that it is just full on part of his character that he does this, that he just gets in people's faces and tells them the hard truths, man. The things that you're denying yourself because you don't want to handle them. You got all that stupid self-doubt, dude. No.
He's like a way too aggressive Tony Robinson. You need to take control of your life, man. I don't want to get right into it. You need to take control of your life, man. Get out of your bubble. Start going.
You see, you need to start respecting yourself. Just, if he stopped doing that, it would no longer be true to the character. I'm not going to stop being annoyed by it, but I have to just accept it's like, okay, that is just what he is. And I just kind of have to deal with that. And I think that's probably just always going to be my problem with him as a character, is the thing that defines him. So it's a little unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's his trait, though. It is honestly what you kind of have to get around. He's just going to be somebody who aggressively kind of tries to lift everybody up. And it kind of stinks that it's like, I wish somebody else within this world could have that role. But for the most part, everybody kind of needs to be inspired at least once by Asta. And then after that can kind of comment on the fact that they were inspired by him.
So, Vanessa says, neither Finral's spatial magic nor my thread magic work against those flames. And Noelle, if we agitate it with your magic, it might explode immediately. Noelle goes, I knew it. Asta's anti-magic sword is the only thing that can stop it.
Oh my god! Nick just fucking got up and left. For those of you who are listening to the audio-only version of this, he just fucking booked it.
Okay, I'm back.
All right, are you better?
What is everyone else there for?
You have to assume that ultimately Mars is there to actually be the emotional weight that kind of awakes Fauna up. Because all Asta can ultimately do, I guess, is
Poke her in the forehead with the sword, I guess.
Yeah. And everyone else, I mean, not for nothing, but it was kind of established last time. I feel like everyone else is kind of just there to be the catalyst that gets Asta there. Like, I mean, we see the same players here. I would not be shocked if the same situation happens where Vanessa uses her magic strings to pull Asta through a portal Finral created so he can get up there. And, it's after Noelle's knocked away with the water. So who knows? I mean, if it flows the same way, then it's almost kind of like, all right, this is just like, it's like throwing a Pokeball. Like, this is just the process you have to go through to beat these guys, I guess. But I don't know. We shall see. I kind of made my point on this arc before, and I feel like anytime I talk about it, I'm just going to be repeating it. I just don't feel like there's anything particularly unique to this arc thus far, and this conclusion just hasn't gotten much in way of kind of like changing my opinion on it. I just kind of admit now, it's like this is an arc that just doesn't do anything for me.
It's...
Nick, let's talk about something we're all going to enjoy, right? Let's talk about RWBY. Let's talk about RWBY, Nick. A couple of weeks after we did a bonus podcast talking about all of our many thoughts on issue or volume 1, I believe it is. By the way, guys, in case anyone out there is not aware, that is what our bonus pod was for the month of December, and you can still get it if you want. Nick and I both watched volume 1, well, the first half of volume 1 of RWBY, and gave our thoughts on it. And that kind of goes a long way to talking about RWBY. Although I need to like take a moment here and mention something. So I've had people tell me the RWBY manga is ending. It's like announced that like its run in Japan's coming to an end. But someone told me it's ending with chapter 14. And we're on chapter 9 right now. And I'm hoping that was just a mistake on their part. Because I'm like, what the fuck was the point of this series if it's gonna end in 5 fucking chapters and we are just now getting to the end of the fucking teaser trailer, like, interpretations? What's the story of this fucking manga in 5 chapters?
According to the teaser that happened at the end of this edition of Jump, they are going to actually move beyond that, and there's going to be some sort of team task going on in the next chapter. But even so, if it is ending in chapter 14, that's only 5, 2/3 of a regular length Jump series chapters to get through whatever you want to tell. Like, what are you going to accomplish in all of that?
Now, the thing to kind of like clarify, I don't know if that's 100%. It's what one person mentioned to me.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's for certain the case, if other people could confirm that. But I'm going to tell you right now, if this is 14 fucking chapters, I'm going to be the sourest, most bitchy person on the planet reviewing the last 5 fucking chapters. Like, what was the point of this? Why'd you even translate this? This sucks. You didn't do anything.
I'm looking at the Wikipedia article, and I then followed that to the RWBY Japan Twitter account as a source, which says, manga by Shiro Miwa begins at Ultra Jump. Original story which reveals the mystery hidden in 4 trailers.
If it says 14 chapters of this fucking thing, I'm going to flip my shit. So, chapter 9, of course, is still continuing the Yang trailer, because you had to get all of this. She's still fighting against the 2 girls, whose names I'm not going to bother remembering, because now that I've seen the first half of the series, they don't fucking show up again. That's irrelevant. And it's basically just a fight chapter, there's some, I guess you get some pretty decent looking action between them. It's probably the best, I guess, the action's looked in this series thus far. Maybe just because Yang's fighting style lends itself to being more easily, like, digestible, because it's punches as opposed to, like, weird scythe movements or whatever the fuck, Weiss does. But she beats up Junior, pommels him, and he's like, "You win. I guess that's why they call you the little dragon, huh?" And she's like, "Yeah, fits me perfectly, right?" I'm like, I guess because you turn on to fire at some point? I don't know. Afterwards, Junior says, "I can't help you." Which is like, why did you guys have to fight then? Like, she even notes, he's like, "You strung me along. Why?" He's like, "I don't know. I felt like it. I'm a dickhead. I don't know." Any reason for everything I do? And then Ruby shows up, and her and Yang kind of hang out, and she's like, "Oh, well, how about we get a free drink from you? We'll take 2 strawberry sunrises and no ice and alcohol." It's like, we'll take the 2 most boring drinks we can find on the menu. We'll take the 2 lamest fucking things we can get, I guess.
Is this symbolic?
Ice is too risky for me. And I do kind of like, though, that they're like, "Oh, this is so generous of you." He's like, "They're not free. They're not free. I brought it up like, hey, you wrecked my fucking place. You can at least pay for a drink." They're like, "Oh, thanks. It's so sweet of you." No, they're not free. I don't know how else to clarify this. But that's actually the end of the chapter. Ruby says, "What were you doing here?" And Yang says, "Just waiting for somebody." And they drive away, and we see the silhouette of the man in the black suit and the hat, who I think showed up at the end of like the first or second chapter of this. And that's the chapter. That's all of RWBY. If this goes longer than 14 chapters, hey, all those are done. Let's get into the series proper. If this is only 14 chapters long, why the fuck did we waste our time with all this? This was like a 4-chapter long little look into the trailer. Sorry, I don't want to. I want to note this for anybody who's listening to this, who's a big RWBY fan, who might be getting angry because it sounds like we're getting really shitty and angry at this. Well, I know if you listen to that.
No. You should listen to the bonus pod if you want that.
Well, no. I want to actually clarify. In that bonus pod, we are a lot more like level-headed and calm and rationally kind of discussing things. I've had actually like quite a few like fans of RWBY mention that, and that's generally what the comments are on our Patreon. Like,
well,
hey,
it's hard to go. I mean, we had a very long discussion, honestly, about RWBY in that bonus episode. I mean, it's like an hour and a half long.
Yeah.
So had a lot of time to talk about a lot of different details in that, but also had more things to discuss than, well, that scene that was like 4 minutes long in the trailer was stretched out to 4 chapters.
Yeah, well, like the big thing though is it's like, hey, after seeing the first half of the volume, I hate the manga more because I'm like, this is a shitty adaptation that covers a lot of unnecessary. Why are you doing this?
I mean, I don't know. I do have to think like what the actual point of it is, other than just to sell a few manga volumes to fans of the series. I think it might only, if it is only going to be 14 chapters. And it's chapters of this length, that might only be enough to fill 1 volume for that matter.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. But I mean, maybe that's the thing. Like, hey, we made a manga version of RWBY. It could be all fit in 1 chapter or 1 volume or, volume or whatever. It just seems really unnecessary to me, especially now having watched, like, essentially everything that covers this stuff, where you're just like, I don't quite understand what the point of this was if this only covered a badly adapted portion of the RWBY canon or universe that can all be watched and like digested in 10 minutes between the different teaser trailers. All right, One Piece. Let's move on.
All right, One Piece. So, last time Sanji found out that putting the one light in his wife was actually like the most I am a villain character in this arc. And he was sad. And we pick up on that point in chapter 851, Dog End, which is such an odd title. Pudding continues with her vow that all the members of the Vinsmoke family are going to be killed at the wedding tomorrow. The wedding will be dyed red with blood. And, where have I heard that before? I don't know. Something about a game with like chairs or something. I don't know. Yeah. So she also makes the odd comment of, if the wedding cake gets splattered with blood, Mama's going to be so furious she'll destroy the entire building, which is actually kind of funny because it's like, oh, that's your greatest concern. The wedding cake's going to get covered in blood. Not a whole lot of people are going to die. I get this series is Pudding goes a little bit nuts in this chapter, honestly. She makes a lot of really weird faces when she's like, especially when she's talking about, I wonder what kind of face Sanji's going to make whenever this happens to him.
It's rather exaggerated, to say the least.
She makes like the freaked out Usopp face from the Dressrosa arc. She gives an explanation of the pistols. The pistol she's got in her hand is called a Walker, which fires candy jackets. Powerful enough to pierce even a shield-bearing soldier, which works well enough against the Vinsmoke's metal bodies. And that is apparently how Reiju was injured before. So that's what she plans to use for them to kill the Vinsmokes. And then she goes on about, I wonder what Sanji's reaction is going to be whenever he finds out that I've been lying to him this whole time. And she's laughing in Reiju's face. And then she says, oh, and you know how he proposed to me? It was perfect. Once that facial pack came off, he looked so embarrassing. A few tears, and he was like putty in my hands. Men are so stupid. And then he pulled me close and managed to squeak out the words, you are my salvation. Let's get married. God,
You're like,
she's such a bitch. The faces she fucking makes when she's mocking him are so cartoonishly sadistic.
I love the way it shows Sanji reacting to this, though, because he's always been known as kind of like a calm and collected member of the Straw. It's probably the most collected member of all of them, or one of them at least, where it's like, when shit gets real, he's usually not the one to have an exaggerated expression. He's the cool, suave one. So he's listening to this, and you can't see his eyes for most of it. You can't see most of his face, really. It's usually kind of covered, but you see him like trying to light a cigarette, and he just can't get anything to light because of the fact it's raining. And then you finally see a shot from below, and you can see like he is starting to like cry up a little bit. And I do like, because I'm like, that is like kind of intrinsically what I would imagine Sanji would be like reacting to this. He's not going to be like, I can't believe she did this or anything like that, but he has been shown to be emotional enough to cry before. He was one of the few, like, he cried when the Going Merry got destroyed. You know, we have like a single solitary tear. So it shows quite a lot to show that he is affected by this emotionally. But at the same time, I do like that he's not like blue screen of death, like broken, trying to figure out what to do. Like he's trying to light a cigar, or a cigarette, trying to accept all this. And then the next time we see that area, it's just like the leftover flowers as he's presumably going to act.
It's yeah, I do really like the way that it's so like that. It's not like he's, you know, I like the way that it's been kind of built up, you know, first seeing the darkened eyes and then, yeah, avoiding seeing his eyes up until that very last shot before cutting away after he's been listening in the whole time.
A lot said without using any dialogue on Sanji's part. And that's what's really kind of impressive.
And then we cut to Charlotte and confronting Brooke, who, of course, has already been beaten up a bit by the time that we join the action. Apparently, seemingly from what they were saying to each other, it seems as though Big Mom has been controlling the battle to this point very easily. And Brooke says, "So why are you so interested in copying that stone?" And Brooke says, "The thing about Sanji is he's very kind-hearted, so I knew that he would not return to us, no matter what trap it is you set up for him. His kindness knows no bounds. Once he's made up his mind to sacrifice himself for someone, he will not change his ways. And our captain, meanwhile, is a man who always trusts in his own beliefs when he acts, so whatever happens will be decided by them." So basically just putting it out there that, you know, this is why I've taken this, you know, this independent action, is because this is what I can do while they're off deciding shit by themselves, basically. I really love the big picture that we get of Big Mom just towering over him while, you know, we see Brooke much smaller in the foreground with his back to the viewer.
Oh, it's an awesome visual because you not only get that, but you also get the looming like fire and lightning clouds kind of showing over it. So like we've kind of seen now that Big Mom has some kind of weather manipulation for it as well, it seems, or some kind of power at least related to that. And seeing those and her gigantic stature looming over Brooke and him as like thin and wafy as he kind of is, and like the tattered like trench coat. It's a really cool looking visual. It's a pretty awesome visual to get of him standing up kind of confidently against a threat that looming and large.
It's actually kind of awkward in its own way too, though, because you know, the flame cloud that she's got in her hand, it's making a big leering face. Big Mom is making a big leering face. And then you pan over, and then there's the thundercloud with like, Torgacho. And then there's, of course, the face on her hat, which, you know, does its own facial expression. It just kind of looks confused by everything that's going on. It's like, yeah, okay. So Big Mom kind of mocks Brooke because, like, oh, all right, so then you've got nothing better going on than to copy a stone, which is a fair point to make. There are much more important things going on in the immediate moment. You know, Sanji getting betrayed, Luffy and Nami are captured, and Chopper and Carrot are caught within the mirror world, and Brooke is off doing this whole thing while Pedro is almost literally killing himself, trying to fend off Barentamago. But Brooke says, well, no. See, I'm doing this in case we face the worst case scenario with Sanji deciding not to return with us. That way, he won't kick himself for bringing us here, because we will have gained something tremendous for our trouble. We will have taken your road poneglyph. And Big Mom's like, that's not the worst case scenario. I mean, come on, whatever, all your friends might die. And Brooke says, young lady, which I love, because he's over 100 years old.
Shit ton older than her.
He could say that to pretty much anyone. What kind of idiot draws up plans with the expectation of dying? And we cut to inside the mirror world after that point. Carrot and Chopper have woken up Brûlée by tickling her, and are using that to also torture her for information. Okay.
Hey, you know what? I appreciate it. Could have been like made really creepy and sexual, and it didn't, because One Piece has a slightly higher standard than other series that we know.
So they're asking her, like, okay, which mirror goes to the castle? And she's like, I don't freaking know.
She's like, ask the goddamn mirrors. You're like,
They're like,
all
wait,
right.
what? Yeah. Here's the next. This is a nice detail, I think, thrown in by the adaptation because they make the question rhyme. Oh gosh, mirror, mirror. So they actually all provide details like, I'm a mirror inside of Lady Gillette's closet. I'm a hand mirror in the second floor guest room. I'm a fourth floor women's bathroom mirror. Of course there's one of those. Freaking of course. And Chopper says like, oh, okay, which of you reflect, Luffy or Nami or Brooke or Paige or Sanji? And they're like, who the fuck are you talking about? Because of course, they don't know these people if they haven't met them. Although like the one in the mirror says, oh, I just saw Sanji pass by me. But they're like, oh, what do they look like? And Carrot says, don't worry, I'm great at drawing faces, Chobro. Okay. Also, I think she's holding a quill in that last panel.
Possibly. It's tough to. Yeah, I'd assume so. What else would she be holding?
What is the best way that this informed detail about her could go? Would it be that she like draws these amazing portraits, that she draws stick figures, and the mirrors still recognize them?
It'd be great if it's incredibly detailed, but for some reason they all have like fucking bunny ears and shit, or like just animal features. Like he assumes everybody's a mink of some kind.
Well, that'd be kind of like what Rukia did.
Yeah.
Everything that she drew looked like a cartoonish rabbit.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of the idea like everybody like that's really interesting. I don't know whiskers though. I don't know why you added those.
Also, my teeth aren't nearly that protruding.
I don't have tiger stripes so much.
We cut again to Pudding and Reiju, as Pudding explains how her devil fruit works. She has the memo fruit, and she reaches into Reiju's head. It's actually really gruesome at first because it's like her head becomes liquid as she reaches inside of her skull and pulls out this film strip. And she says, every person has a film of memories inside their head. Doesn't everyone have frightening experiences, painful memories, parts of their past they'd like to forget? I'll just take this memory from a soldier who got hit by a stray bullet and edit, and there, all done. So now your memories have been cut, so we can have a fun wedding tomorrow. So there's our explanation for why she was being so blatantly evil. It's because she knew that Reiju wouldn't
remember
it. So there you go. It's a cool memory. It's a cool ability for her to have, I think, especially with her kind of infiltration type of thing, with her acting ability.
It does also kind of explain a couple other things that she noted, like why Lola, I think, maybe had that good of an opinion of her. It could have been that she erased the bad memories of her and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
hey, maybe she's used that ability on herself.
Yeah, like she's not evil after all.
No, I'm not saying that, but it would be interesting.
She took away any bad memories she may have had with her siblings or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That would
or maybe she got jealous of Lola and edited Charlotte's memories of her so that she had bad memories of her and resented her for leaving.
It's interesting because it's hard for me to look at this without being like, I feel like I'm reading JoJo's Bizarre Adventure right now. Because there are so many stands that this feels like right now.
So many that have memory alteration of some sort.
I think there's at least 3 different stands I can think of right now. I'm like, this seems really similar to this one, and this one, and this one.
There's a bunch of people in the chat who are doing it too.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Of course, they don't know that Sanji knows about it, so he is safe from this, and he remembers it. And we see, though, that he has abandoned the flowers by the end of the conversation after having heard all the important information, and has gone off on his own way. We then cut to the library, the prison library, where Luffy is still struggling. He's making good progress on tearing his arms off in order to free himself.
Spinning around over and over.
Yeah. And Nami's still freaking out over the minor detail of, you're getting blood on me.
Ew, gross.
God. The prison guard is like, this guy's kind of crazy. So all of a sudden the guard though says to Nami, Mama ordered me to make sure you cough up where Lola's at now, so spill the beans. And Nami's like, I'm not gonna do that. Okay then, torture. And his method of torture is rather blunt.
It's like, no sexy torture, no bringing in llamas to lick their feet. He's like, I'm gonna shoot you with the crossbow till you talk. He's like, that'll kill me. He's like, you better talk then, I guess. I guess you better fucking tell me then. She's like, good point.
What's water torture? Is that where you just drown the person immediately if they don't talk?
It's like, my preferred method of torture is to shoot you in the legs until you either die or tell me. Like, oh. All right,
it seems like, actually, forget that. It's much more efficient if you aim for the head, but then I'll just die immediately. Better get talking.
Guess you better not say anything.
And Luffy assures her saying, don't worry, Nami, I'll get these arms ripped off in less than 5 seconds. Nami's like, I don't want either of those things to happen. And Luffy and the guard say simultaneously, stop being selfish. This is so fucking weird. All of a sudden, another voice appears, saying, oh, hello, is anybody here? And the guard turns and says, you're not supposed to be allowed inside the castle. And the voice says, don't be difficult. There's battles and chaos all over. So sorry to do this, opera.
Nick, should he get a voice?
Go ahead. Think of one.
Oh, don't be difficult. There's battles and chaos. Sorry to do this, opera. 5,000 brick. So monotone all the way through.
The most monotone.
Luffy, Nami, I heard they had you pretty, but I'm glad you're all right.
God. It's Jinbei. Who has come to save the day. And everyone and Luffy and Nami, of course, are freaking out. They're so happy to see him. And it looks like Jinbei is going to finally start turning the fortunes of the Straw Hats around.
This is actually really cool. I'm glad to see Jinbei again.
Yeah, I really freaked out the first time that I read this chapter because I was like, Jinbei's back. Ah.
It is. It's really cool because we haven't seen him in a while, and it's like one of those things that's been in the back of my mind. Like Jinbei's still out there, we just don't know really doing what. But this was a really cool way to kind of bring him back into it.
Yes. I agree, fully. And I'm glad that, he didn't just, stay out of all the proceedings just because he was intimidated by Mama. And potentially this might allow him to cut things off with her and actually join the Straw Hats.
There's the potential that maybe he sacrificed years instead, since we know that's an option.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's what happened instead, but ultimately, it's just kind of nice because it's like, oh, okay, cool. We can finally see a character who, it feels like now is a good point for the Straw Hats to start getting their turnabout, for things to start going in the Straw Hats' direction, because things have been looking pretty dire for a bit. You know, Luffy and Nami have been held captive for a while. Sanji had found out that Pudding betrayed him, and Reiju's kind of being held prisoner, and Brooke's kind of caught up with Big Mom and seems to be kind of cornered, and then you have Baron Tamago fighting Pedro, who's already admitted, I'm gonna die soon. So it's kind of nice. And Chopper and Carrot for the longest time looked like they were held captive. So it's kind of nice to be like, okay, things are starting to turn about here, and this is a good way to do it.
Yeah, it's possible. Maybe he got away from the roulette thing. Maybe he managed to strike a deal with her because we saw that Big Mom was willing to accept barter attempts, well, Peckham's, is freaking out so much. Fine, I'll reduce it by 10 years. And Pedro offered her his eye in order to make amends for taking Tamago, so it took away another 10 years from the sentence. So maybe he managed to strike a deal with her somehow.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens, but I think it's really kind of nice and welcoming to see Jinbei back.
Mm-hmm. Also, Brooke did say that he doubted the news that he had actually just cowed away from from Big Mom's offer. So there is something that happened in that conversation that I'm sure he'll probably provide the details for at some point.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that's One Piece.
Yeah, let's wrap this up.
Okay. Let's name our favorites for this week. I'm actually having a really hard time deciding what my favorite chapter was, honestly.
I'll go first then, if you want.
Okay.
My favorite chapter this week was One Piece. I think One Piece was really strong kind of all the way through, with the end kind of follow up with the Sanji stuff and the little story that told, with the scene of Brooke and Big Mom, with Jinbei showing back up. It was a really cool sequence, or I think a strong chapter kind of all the way through.
I totally get that. I am going to go with the Promised Neverland.
That's
because, I mean, for very different reasons, well, not for very different reasons, because it was, just all the one scene that everything took place in, and seeing the way that the three characters played off of each other, particularly the way that Krone got to shine in it when she managed to glean that information from Emma and Norman, and really just kind of told them that she knew what they had revealed to her just to freak them out in order to play off of, in order to intimidate them and to show them, oh yeah, this isn't going to be as easy as you think. Potentially make them more paranoid about the information that they could be unknowingly providing for her. My MVP is actually going to be kind of weird. I'm going with Opera from One Piece, the prison guard.
Okay.
Just because, okay. Krone probably deserves it more. Jinbei probably deserves it more. Pudding probably deserves it more. Hell, Mars probably deserves it more, honestly. But this was the most unexpected amount of entertainment that I got from a character this week, and so I'm going to recognize that for just purely for, well, you better go talking then.
Hey, you know what? That's very fair. I can completely understand that. I'm giving it to Sanji this week. I know Brooke was also a really big kind of contender for that, but I really just like the story that was told here with Sanji, again, completely without using dialogue. It was just a really powerful kind of moment, and I think I'm really excited to see his turnabout, how he responds to all this. So really like that.
So went with a character that didn't do or say anything. And our audience chose overwhelmingly One Piece, I should say. Promised Neverland was the one that got at all close to it, but still One Piece had literally half the vote this week. So, yeah. Also, Brooke. We should give a mention to Brooke. He was total badass. Had one of, I think, an early contender for speech of the year. I think we should make a note of that one.
Do we want speech? I'm actually I'm working on the new superlative awards already, and I've actually taken a couple of suggestions from people, and one of the new categories I have separated from best speech is best one-liner. So I put in there the young lady. What kind of
young lady?
Expectation of dying.
Good stuff.
If people want best speech in there, go right ahead. But I'd put that in for best one-liner. I should note you can still send in any of those suggestions if you want new categories. Just let us know. More than welcome to hear ideas. All right.
Right. So that is going to do it here for Weekly Manga Recap. Thank you, everyone, for joining us here for our show. We do the recording live on Hitbox and Twitch.tv, both /RoloT. And you can join us for the live recording, or you can also just check out our past episodes in a bunch of different places. There's weeklymangarecap.podbean.com, YouTube, iTunes, and if you check us out on those, be sure to subscribe, leave a comment, leave a rating, and it's especially important for iTunes because you can help us to beat the woodworking podcast in the hobby section and rise up in the rankings.
need to give a special thanks actually to a couple people. We got a couple new reviews. One from POB2 says an absolutely amazing podcast. They were the first ones to convince me to do Patreon, and I have not regretted a minute of it. They're always funny and worth listening to. So thank you very much, POB2. And also to Baku and Ryu, who says, I'll say this is a fun podcast to listen to and die in a fire for what you said about Senri from Plus Anima.
I don't even remember that at all.
Fair enough. There's a lot of things I should probably die in a fire for, and that probably...
That was years ago.
It's a while ago. This person's held a grudge. But thank you very much for the review. It is greatly appreciated.
Be sure to follow us on Twitter so that you can stay updated on the show. You can follow your hosts at RoloT and at YRoller of Time, and the official Weekly Manga Recap Twitter account is WMR Podcast. And you should definitely check that out if you want to make suggestions for manga for us to add to our regular lineup. Chris made a post recently. You can just reply to that, or you can, of course, send suggestions to us via email.
Yes.
Speaking of email, weeklymangarecap@yahoo.com. Not only can you use that to add stuff to our weekly review, but you can also suggest manga for us to cover for individual episodes, as well as ask us questions for our Q&A editions, and provide helpful criticism to help us improve the show overall. Special thanks go out to all of our Patreon supporters. Your support allows us to create all sorts of bonus content for you guys to enjoy. Like we said at the top of the show, we passed the $900 mark recently. Our next goal is going to be to make more Trollo T trivia episodes. That is our current $950 milestone. So if you liked the Bleach the Bleach trivia episode and would like to see us do more goofy, weird stuff like that with a incredibly unfair host who is actually very fair, please don't penalize me on the next episode.
I have plans in motion for a hat. I'll have everyone know. To give you the notion, as the Quizmaster, I have a hat.
The Quizmaster!
Quizmaster!
I can't imagine Paul saying that line without like a top hat randomly appearing on his head every time.
But I do want to give a special thanks. As you mentioned, we reached a new goal, and that's due in no small part to the fact we have quite a few new patrons to give thanks to. So
there was another milestone that we reached. We have like over 200 supporters now on Patreon.
Guys,
that's crazy.
It's incredible. It's extremely awesome. I thank everybody for the support. I hope all of you guys are enjoying it. We definitely appreciate it. We definitely want to let you know that we're going to continue working on the show and building it up because we have a lot of very cool ideas for this. But I just want to take a moment to thank Ryan Elk, Danny Von Overbeek, Pashal Dooley, Reborn, Skimono, and John. Thank you all of you for supporting. It is greatly appreciated. Fist bump. Thank you guys. Karate move.
Special thanks also go out to the guys who help us make the podcast what it is. Steve Mann, our title card artist, as well as Infamous Planet, the creator of The Frame Around Us, and sometimes creator of visual editions of the podcast. Thanks, guys. Show wouldn't be the same without you. You can go ahead and insult Infamous if you want to now.
What a dickhead.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, guys, we're going to be making some changes to the podcast in 2017. That is not going to be one of them.
7,000% less Brits on the show. It seems like a very strong number, but I believe that we can reach it. It's my goal. Some say not ambitious enough. I think that's what I say.
All right. That is going to do it, everyone. Thank you for joining us for Weekly Manga Recap. We will see you next week when we should be covering Ballroom e Yokoso, which is something that I'm definitely looking forward to talking about. Yeah. I don't know. What should we go out on this time?
Let's go out on a very patient and forthright discussion on the merits of syndicated television against new age kind of Netflix original television. It's like you pull a cigar out of nowhere. I don't know why. I picked like a really interesting topic to put that on.
Indeed.
It's like, I was like, let's talk about the current European Union crisis. It was like, Nick, Do you think Parks and Recs is better than Stranger Things? Like, those two aren't really even similar.
Not even remotely the same genre, in fact.
I guess they're both television. I don't know how to really compare them beyond that. Bye.